Hello, welcome to AlbertRHeartland.com, and today we are speaking about the Red Menace. Well, that's not really fair, it's not the Red Menace, but we're talking about China. I've been fascinated by China lately, especially their real estate. With all the doom and gloom about the U.S. economy, I thought it would be interesting to see what this competitor from the East has been doing in their real estate markets. And I find it fascinating that the U.S. media has made them sort of like our rival to some degree. And I want to be clear, they do not have a market like ours. Their real estate market is driven by their government. Ours is still, the development side is still privately driven. Now the mortgage side can be argued that it's all government driven, but even in that regard, the government in China has set some strict rules to try to increase residential real estate. So they have financed very large city developments that are empty. You don't have the red tape like you do in the United States regarding eminent domain issues. They don't have a constitution. So I want everybody to be very clear about what China is doing. They are propping their internal economy up with what I would consider to be a false construction economy. Because if you do some research, you'll see, this is a great 60 Minutes piece on this if you want to look at it. It's really great on Soho Properties, which is a Chinese company, that the Wall Street Journal reported today is looking to purchase 40% of the GM building in New York. And that's a huge acquisition for a very premier property in the city of New York. But don't get caught up on this idea that we're competing against China. China's government is very involved in their economy. They pick and choose markets. They try to control price structures. They don't have to worry about certain regulations from the private sector, because if they need an area to develop, they just take it down and they just tell people they got to move. Well, we have a system here in the United States called the courts. So the United States also has what they call the Fifth Amendment, which is a good thing because they can't just take your property without paying you fair value for it. If you look at what's going on in China, they don't pay fair value for property. And that's a really important distinction to make between the United States and China. If they want to develop a city, they don't have to go to individual landowners, negotiate individual deed prices, try to establish a fair market value through an appraisal, or file something in court that the landowner saying, look, you can't take my property for them. I mean, there's so many different things that go on with that you have to be very careful of comparing us to a communist or socialist regime. Also, we have no idea what the bubble is going to be like in China, because the government continues to pump money into that thing. Well, you see what happened to ours. We crash, we get bailed out, they start paying things back to the federal government, and we have to reestablish a baseline of market capitalism here. These are all positive things for us, because while it hurts during the process, we reestablish a true equity, we reestablish a true value. There's opportunities to make money for those who've got cash. So there's a lot of things going on in the United States that seem to be hurting us right now because China seems to be growing so fast. But you got to look behind the growth. And I want to give you sort of a word picture. They're pumping steroids into their economy. We're trying to get lean and mean. And I think if we hang in there, you'll see China take a fall, and we'll see the United States reestablishing true value in their markets, especially real estate. So the other thing that I want to talk about with China, it's kind of interesting, is they just recently put a 20% tax on profits to try to curb escalating residential sales prices. That's a really curious economic principle, because when you tax something, you typically drive more demand for sale. And so there's people want to get into that marketplace, so it looks like they're actually driving prices higher, not lower. And so if they're artificially creating markets there, I don't think you can really take a report that there's a huge boom in the Chinese residential or commercial development as a true, accurate understanding of a market-driven boom. Because how much of that is the government giving really good access to loans, pumping money into for job creation? We don't have that here, okay? And so don't get caught up into the red hype, as I'm calling it. I think the Chinese people are trying to figure out what a market-driven economy looks like, but it is still a communist, socialist government. And as long as you have that, you have to look behind the curtain there to see what's really going on. So hey, this is still the greatest country on earth. Don't get sucked into comparing us to other places, because we're very unique. And I'm looking forward to hearing your responses and questions to this. I think it's a really neat topic. So hit me up on Facebook or Twitter regarding the Chinese residential real estate market. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.